In Washington, Lebanese and Israeli officials are currently meeting to discuss a potential ceasefire, an attempt to find a diplomatic exit from a year of intensifying conflict. President Trump has even claimed that a specific agreement was reached to ensure the Lebanese capital of Beirut would no longer be targeted by airstrikes. But any expectation of peace is being met with a violent reality. Far from a ceasefire, the United States and Iran have now entered a cycle of direct, kinetic engagement. The escalation is already hitting civilian targets. In Kuwait, an Iranian drone strike recently hit a passenger terminal at the international airport, resulting in at least one death and the total suspension of flights. At the same time, the supposed arrangement in Lebanon is failing. Israeli bombs are still falling on Beirut and the southern city of Tyre, despite the ongoing talks in the U.S. capital. It raises a difficult question. Why is the entire region, from the Strait of Hormuz to the coast of the Mediterranean, exploding simultaneously, exactly when local peace deals are being put on the table? This specific round of escalation began in the Strait of Hormuz, where the U.S. military disabled a ship it claimed was violating an American blockade. The U.S. followed this with what it described as self-defense strikes, targeting Iranian drones and a ground control station that threatened regional shipping. That American strike landed directly on Iranian territory, hitting a facility on Qeshm Island. Iran responded with asymmetric retaliation. Instead of engaging the U.S. Navy head-on, they launched strikes against the regional allies that host American military infrastructure. They targeted Bahrain, the home of the U.S. Fifth Fleet headquarters, forcing air defenses into action across the small island nation. A second wave hit Kuwait, a key U.S. ally. The drones targeted Beirut National Airport, causing significant damage to the terminal and civilian infrastructure. For Tehran, the Gulf is a single theater. Any U.S. enforcement action is met with immediate retaliatory strikes on the American partners within Iran's reach. This regional interconnectedness is why the ceasefire talks for Lebanon are currently fracturing. The negotiations are built on a structural contradiction. The official Lebanese government has taken the significant step of declaring the military wing of Hezbollah illegal, attempting to reassert the state's authority. In Washington, Lebanon insists it is negotiating for its own sovereignty and that Hezbollah, the group actually engaged in the fighting, is not part of the deal. This creates a paradox. While the Lebanese state sits at the table, it lacks the actual military leverage to enforce the very ceasefire it is trying to sign. This is the core of the proxy strategy. Iran provides the funding and direction for Hezbollah's military operations, effectively bypassing the Lebanese government's decisions. It is fundamentally impossible to negotiate a localized peace when the foreign power controlling the armed groups on the ground is not part of the agreement. The sudden, multi-front nature of Iran's current escalation is a response to an urgent internal crisis, the state's collapsing regional standing. Tehran has endured a series of massive strategic humiliations, including the loss of Hezbollah's entire leadership and growing accusations from its own allies that it has abandoned them. Strikes on Kuwait and clashes with the U.S. Navy serve as an aggressive projection of power, proving Tehran remains a formidable force. But this projection of strength at the state level comes at a devastating cost for the countries caught in the middle. Sovereign nations like Lebanon are being treated as mere battlefields, enduring systemic destruction to serve a foreign sponsor's geopolitical reputation. Even when a local government is desperate for peace and agrees to diplomatic terms, they remain hostages to the broader ambitions of their proxy backers. Local ceasefires cannot hold in a vacuum. You cannot solve the conflict in the streets of Beirut without first addressing the broader standoff playing out in the waters of the Gulf.